on Wednesday, January 3rd, 2024. We'll begin tonight's select board meeting. The meeting begins with a joint meeting with the school committee, appointment, vacancy on the school committee. I know that it's customary to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, so we can start with the Pledge of Allegiance today.
Please stand, face the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, man.
All right. So there were 4 candidates that had submitted a letter of interest. I had spoke with the chair of the school committee, and the suggestion tonight will be that in alphabetical order, we'll just call the person's name out and we'll show of hands for votes. And then because we have 2 members that are out from the select board, it just has to be a majority of the voters that are present today. Does anyone have any objections or questions on that process? So, all right, so 1 second. All right, in alphabetical order, all in favor of Mr. William Conley, raise your hand. That's unanimous. So that will end the vote for the vacancy. Mr. Conley will be appointed to school committee. And that closes this portion. Sure.
You mind, can I just point out, one of the reasons I selected Mr. Connolly is he's only going to serve the remainder of this term, which is up in June. So I encourage anybody who's interested in the school committee position to take up papers and run. The position will be open in June.
Yeah, thank you. Very good. So that will end the joint meeting with school committee. We just need a minute for CCTV to switch over. So we'll take a 2-minute recess. While we're waiting for the agenda, we can move on to public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment today? There being none. The next item on the agenda is the review of minutes for November 29th, 2023. It's the pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve we have an executive session too. The minutes for November 29th, 2023, open session and executive session.
Second.
So we're gonna.
Oh, sorry, it's up to you.
Well, typically, I think we've only done open, and
Okay.
speaking with town council and Mr. Ward, then we can always do like an executive session approval.
Gotcha. I
And
will rescind that motion and move that we approve the minutes of November 29, 2023, open session only.
excuse me, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a common victualler license hearing for a mobile food cart on High Street. Christos Valia, doing business as Hot Dog Boy. If you'd like to come up. So you're going to sit right at that table. There you go. Very good. So I spoke with Mr. Ward. Have you received your Safe Serve license yet from, I guess you had spoke to the Board of Health, and they said you need a Safe Serve license before you can begin the process. Do you have the Safe Serve license?
Yeah,
You've completed the Safe Serve course?
yeah. I like it to cook and serve.
So, Mr. Valia is saying that he has completed the Safe Serve?
Then they would need to go to the Board of Health to get a food permit.
Yeah, I haven't received the paperwork from the Board of Health yet, so I'll still work on that. But I'm good to the community. I have good old ties. And the only answer they know me is Hot Dog Boy because I serve food and I work my mother's hot dog stand.
Okay.
Yeah, so at least knowing if,
And making food too, food preparation
yeah.
Very good.
at Perkins. years
Excellent.
ago.
So I think if the board is in support of the concept, I think it would have to be subject to approval by the Board of Health because I don't believe that the food permit has been issued at this time. So
Okay, so then, so we would proceed with the hearing, and then if the board chose to do so, they could support it contingent upon approval by the Board of Health.
all the other permits and licensing as needed, yes. So this just would allow him to establish the business, but he would not be able to operate without all the other permits and inspections. So.
Mr. Chair, I had a question about the proposed, location. Do you have permission from Zaytoon to set up a competing food cart in front of their restaurant?
Yeah.
They're okay with it?
And Zaytoon Buffet, they willing to let me help. That's why they gave me permission. They wrote it down here.
Okay.
Yeah, he did approach them and they were aware of it.
Okay.
So,
Thank
How
you.
am I doing so far?
yeah.
Very
I'm
good.
nervous. It's my first time.
Doing great. You're a seasoned pro. Good job.
Not a pro, yeah, but working on it.
Yeah,
I will
absolutely.
make you guys proud.
Very good. So,
And I'm good hygienist. I get a haircut every day. And I wear gloves every time I work.
very good. Excellent. Did you have a question?
Oh, no.
Okay, I thought I saw your hand going.
No.
All right, so why don't we'll open the portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here in support of this endeavor? Very good. Is there anybody here opposed to the endeavor? Very good. We'll close that portion. Does the board have any questions?
No further.
No, I have no.
Very good. And what's the pleasure?
In 1997, when I was 15 years old, I did vocational training for the food administration with Perkins. So I got to learn how to cook, food preparation, dishwasher, cleaning the stuff, clean as I go. You have to have a good cleaning station,
That's right.
no matter what. And you got to change the grease traps every half hour.
Very good. Very good.
And you got to wear slip-knot shoes and hairnets.
Perfect.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve a common victual license for Chris.
How much is that going to cost?
Hold on one second. We'll go through the motion and then we'll get right to it.
Doing business as Hot Dog Boy to operate a mobile food cart on High Street, contingent on approval of the Board of Health and all required licensing.
I'll second
Second. Any further discussion or questions? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the next step will be to
And make sure you report food safety every month.
absolutely. So the next step would be to
Yeah.
contact the Board of Health?
Right.
Okay.
Yep. So contact the Board of Health. You need to get approvals for a food permit. A license fee wouldn't be necessary at this office until you get all those approvals. So if you go talk to the Board of Health, they can help you next step.
Okay, how much do I owe you for the license fee if I get it?
$25. Yeah. $25 for a year, per year.
You want me to, next time I get to $25, you want me to leave it on a doorknob like I did last time?
No, we'll contact you once you go to the Board of Health and get further,
Okay.
instructions. Yeah. Okay.
The Board of Health.
We can let you know tomorrow.
You'll get it, you'll
Yep.
do that for me?
Yep. So you're all set.
So I got approved?
Yes.
All right.
Contingent upon the Board of Health. That's contingent upon the Board of Health has to approve it. They're the final approval.
If they're okay, we're okay. If the Board of Health's okay, we're okay.
Okay, good.
Good luck.
Hey, great job.
Maybe you got it. You see me out there, hot dog boy?
Go get them.
Great job.
Hey, you guys are doing a good job. Hey, you know, you can make business better if you rebuild it, knock them down, rebuild them more better.
There we go. Very good. The next item on the agenda is Franny Hodge with Mass Central Rail Trail Project update. Welcome.
Yeah, so I wanted to update the board on actually 3 different phases of the project. So we have almost completed the Mass Trails project that was funded through Mass Trails 2022 grant. We've really already completed the Mass Trails 2023, which the CGCT did in our own. We're getting ready for 2024. So to start with the 2022 project, do you have your handouts, by the way? Should have checked.
Yes.
Thanks. There were 2 parts of it. One was the trail design and one was the design of the remediation of the tunnel. STV had been hired to do the tunnel remediation design, and they're calling the project completed at 75%, mainly because the west portal of the tunnel wasn't included as part of the project. And as part of the project, we did a preliminary review with Mass DOT, and they said, well, where's it going? Because we're not going to fund it till we know what the whole project looks like. So they essentially said, until you figure it out what the design is on the other end, we can't start doing anything to repair the tunnel. So that will likely be what we apply for funds for 2024. But they did provide the condition of the tunnel, a drawing set, specifications, cost estimates, a design document, and then they also provided some additional recommendations for things that we had not included in the initial scope. So Mr. Deppy has copies of all of those. They're many multi-megabytes. But if the board is interested, they would also be willing to come and have a sort of overview of what their findings were. But essentially, it's very similar to what they had originally told us in the preliminary evaluation of the tunnel, that the line section is in pretty good shape. The unlined section needs more work, and it actually needs more work than they expected in the preliminary design. But essentially, you clean out all the loose stuff, then you bolt the supports at the top, and you put in wire mesh and shotcrete, and make sure the drainage is improved. And there are, pages and pages of detailed design in every section of the tunnel. But that's essentially how it would work. So in order to move forward with that, we will have to know what the plan is for the other end of the tunnel. So we have to start working on that section of the design. The trail design is completed, but we're still waiting on the order of conditions from the Conservation Commission. And Time Bond, the contractor that worked on that, actually needs the order of conditions because they have to do a submission to the Army Corps of Engineers. So they can't complete that step until we have that order. I know they've been short of members, so I'm not sure they've had a quorum every month, but I have emailed them, and I'll follow up with Denora tomorrow when she's in the office to find out what the status is. There were two small things we left out. Well, one big thing and one smaller thing. So the east portal of the tunnel, we did not get a ruling from Mass DEP until actually after the project should have been completed. So we didn't get that until August of 2023. And essentially, the way they ruled that wet area, it was going to require many, many months more of permitting. So we said, well, let's just take that out for now so we can get the permitting for the section that won't require any additional permitting. So we took out the section from the east portal of the tunnel to Clamshell Road, and we'll revisit that in a future. It might be part of what we can do with the design project this coming year. The trick will be the trails projects usually only go for a year, and with the required permitting, we may need a project to go more than a year. So I'll talk with Mass Trails about that. They occasionally will allow you to go 2 years on a design project or on different types of trail projects. So if that's the case, we might be able to start figuring out the design of that as well. And then the other small section was there's an existing trail from the Rauscher Farm that we had initially included as would be an improved trail from the farm. And there were some objections to that trail, so we just left in a shorter trail that goes through the paddock field. And if you're familiar with that, that's a little field that's sort of between two homes of the abutters and right off of Clamshell Road, so it provides a good entrance to the trail and access from the farm side. So the open items on that are just the order of conditions, and then that part's finished and we'll proceed with the next project. Are there any questions? I know it's a lot and there's many megabytes of material.
Have any questions?
Okay.
All I can say is, Franny, I don't know where you get the energy to do all this. I mean, this is a huge undertaking. You should really be very proud that you've even gotten to this point. I mean,
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah.
I have to say the Mass Trails 2023 project was a very exciting one because it was up and down from the time we applied for the grant until we actually completed it. But for the 2023 project, we've acquired a 4-acre parcel that sits between the Birchwood condominiums and the Woodlands. And they're a huge benefit of that, and that's the one that you have a picture of. It includes a parking area that was previously the parking for the Assembly of God Church. It's a really pretty parcel. It has a little pond on it. Somebody in our group had described it as, oh, well, our parking lot. And I was like, don't talk about it as a parking lot. It's a 4-acre parcel. So there really is a very nice piece of property that surrounds it, and it provides nice access to the trail. It also creates a natural buffer between Birchwood and the Woodlands for the trail to kind of go through the center. So both those complexes actually have a lot of privacy. So we're really excited about that. We closed on the property in November, and the things that ended up being, up and down was, at the time we applied for the grant, we didn't have a purchase and sale completed, and the owner wanted more money. So we had to go back and ask for more money, which we were able to get. So it worked out really well, but it was kind of up and down, like we weren't sure if we were going to be able to do it or not. So we're really happy that happened. And then for 2024, there's sort of 3 areas that are next on the list. One is what are the feasible options for the west portal of the tunnel? That's probably the highest priority because it will be a gate to being able to do some of the other development work. And then that section on the east portal of the tunnel that we eliminated in the previous design work because, before we start a lot of construction, we also need to know how that's going to work out as well. And then the next thing would be starting the build phase, which likely we will wait for another year, simply because we kind of need the other design information before we start doing too much building. We're hoping, based on the orders that we get from the Conservation Commission, that there may be some preliminary work that we can do with volunteers so that we just make the trail a little bit more accessible. We wouldn't really be able to do any big construction, I don't think, in the next year, but we will want a letter of support from the select board once we, submit the trails grant. I don't know exactly what we're asking for yet, but I will know by the next meeting so we can get a letter in time to submit on February 1st.
Okay.
So that's the only ask, is that once we sort of have the outline of the project, that we get support from the board for the application. And I will keep Mr. Duffy in the loop on, how we're drafting the grant. We've done it a bunch of times, so it's a little bit easier lift, you know, as long as we get good quotes for the work from a couple providers. It's pretty much filling in the blanks now and updating our maps and things like that. Did I miss anything?
Only that that 4-acre parcel has a pond and a meadow, and it's really beautiful, but it also has parking.
I think I mentioned the parking. But it's for, you know, we're a land trust, so it's pretty exciting for us because it, that 4-acre parcel doubled the amount of property that we have in conservation. So we're really excited about that as well.
That's excellent.
But it's also a wonderfully located access point for the eventual rail trail.
Yeah, and the sort of markup there is with the traffic flow is a preliminary design. We haven't really gotten any formal approvals on that. One of the homeowners at the Woodlands actually had suggested that path, and it seems like the logical way for the traffic flow. If you essentially come in through one gate and out through the other gate, so you make it one way. So that also limits, you know, we don't want it to be, you know, irritating additional traffic for people that live nearby. And it kind of keeps it out of the way of both the Woodlands and the Birchwood folks.
Excellent.
Great.
Very good. Any questions?
No, I'm just anxious to see you come back with more so we can continue this.
I know, it's very exciting.
It
It's,
is.
you know, after more than 25 years.
Are there any hints or leads about how to get across Route 70 yet, or
Well, I mean.
can we get the trestles back or no?
Well, so that's why we're doing it more as what are the feasible options?
Yeah.
Because a lot of different stakeholders have to buy into it.
Yeah.
DCR Watershed will have a say. MWRA manages the road that we need to get across or use. The Conservation Commission, the town. And I mean, my preference, if it's possible, is to do something that goes over the road, just because it's a very busy road. Time Bond did do a traffic study and they clocked somebody at 55 miles an hour coming down the hill, which, you know, it's not hard to do. It's all downhill. And if there's nobody around, it's, you know, so my preference would be that there's a design that goes over the road rather than adjacent to the road. But when you come out of the tunnel and over to the other side, it's a very steep drop down to the road on the other side. So, you know, doing some kind of a zigzag back and forth would be an option potentially. But not being an engineer, I kind of want to leave it to people with more skill than I have to come up with some ideas. And then before we do a detailed design, we want to make sure we have the buy-in of the stakeholders to say, well, I would, you know, I'll never approve this one. I'll definitely approve this one, and this one's a maybe, so that we know which way to proceed.
Great. Thank you.
Excellent. Very good. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Keep in touch.
Yeah, I will, definitely. Thank you. And you're up next, Superintendent. So you just stay right there.
Very good. All right, next item on the agenda, Phil Duffy, Community and Economic Development Director.
Here with two updates.
Very good.
On both on matters that we've spoken of in the recent past. The first is the LED community boards that we discussed a couple months ago. Forgive me, I didn't bring a copy of the design, but in your packet at that time, we had a copy of the design and some idea of what the parameters for the design would be. Your feedback at that time was, are the signs big enough? What do we know about the screens, the software, all that kind of thing? Since we last met, we have looked at that much more closely, looked at a couple vendors closely, and actually had an on-site demonstration of the boards here in Clinton. A company called Watchfire, their program rep, project rep, came out with a van that pops up, utility van. The big screen pops up, and you can see the content at different resolutions, and you have the advantage of viewing it from different distances. So based on that that visit, where we also got an overview of the product's history and the company's history, and also their software and user interfaces, we requested that they provide us a price for screens that were larger and of two resolutions that were greater than the ones that we had originally quoted out. Effectively, we are going from 3x7 screen, which was a proposed 3x6 screen, to a 4x8 screen. And if Mike was at that meeting as well, he may have something to say, but it actually made sense when you try, especially up at the school location where you're viewing it from a greater distance. And with the resolutions of 10 millimeters for the high school project board and for 6 millimeters where people are sitting at a light and seeing it from only 35 feet away. So these are high quality screens. It's a product that has been represented with something like 70,000 installations around the country. Company's been around. The guy was telling us the company started in the 1930s doing the signs you see out front of the bank, like the one I used to hang in front of Santander. So it's a long-standing company. Getting those numbers and looking more closely at our program of 3 signs. What I'm coming back to you with tonight is a recommendation that we modify the signs for the school and for the corner of Church and Main, 4x8 signs rather than 3x6 originally specified. And in the interest of offsetting cost, including cost of electrical installation at Chestnut Street, that we eliminate the digital signage at the Chestnut Street sign and just install the existing sign that's already been fabricated. There may be an argument for doing so. There was some equivocation as to whether a digital sign in that location might be a distraction to drivers at that intersection where they're making turns. But effectively, the cost of installing 3 signs, only 2 illuminated, is approximately $95,000, $15,000 higher than I had proposed to you back a few months ago at $80,000. But $26,000 of that is the additional cost of the screens.
Additional cost of what?
The LED screens.
So the total cost is what for two LED displays?
For 3 signs with 2 LED displays, right now the cost we have is $91,000. But National Grid won't even look at the project until we show them a contract and say this is going in. So we're estimating about $3,000 to $4,000 for National Grid design as well.
Okay, so total cost for just the 2 is estimated to be about what?
I'm going to guess about $85,000.
And you were originally requested 80,000.
Yes.
For 3.
For 3.
Eliminate the 1.
Yeah.
Go with the larger for 85.
Yeah.
And now are you looking for additional funding tonight?
I'm just giving you an update and making a recommendation based on what I saw. I hate to say it to come back to you guys and say you were right, but you were right. The bigger screen is better. Just to make a recommendation to you to put it before you. If not, you've already approved $80,000 for the prior project, but the difference in cost would come out of the quality and size of the screens.
And I think when we approved it, did it include a little bit of leeway in the funding itself, right? Wasn't it an approximate number versus it wasn't a hard number? Like basically we allowed, if it went over.
It was our best estimate number.
Yeah.
And if it had gone over, I'd be coming back to asking for probably something in the order of 5% if it went over, if it was like a typical project. You had approved $80,000.
Oh, okay.
So, sorry, just the third sign is out, or it's just going to be a plain?
It will be a plain sign, and it actually already exists. It was a gift to the town from the designer who did our wayfinding program.
Oh, sure. And it's like a welcome to Clinton sign, or
It's Clinton with our wayfinding logo
Sure.
and silhouette in a kind of figure ground representation of our wayfinding logo.
And so, sorry, I wrote down 95. So that includes what, installing that one, or we're just going to scrap that all together and go with 85? Or did I write that down wrong?
No, 95 was the estimate for the 3.
Okay.
But I'd have to go back and look at, the itemized estimate is about 2.5 pages long. And I have to go back and pull out for the foundations for that sign, for the time fabricated, that kind of.
So the estimated cost of just doing the 2 signs is within what you had requested initially. So it's just notifying us that.
Yeah, it's within 10%, 12%.
So it's 80, excuse me.
That's okay.
So it's 85.
Yeah,
So it's 80 plus the 5, give or take, for National Grid to the electrical.
I don't want to commit to, I was kind of giving you an update to tell you what we thought.
Well, no, I mean, that's what basically you were saying, right? I mean, eventually,
Yeah.
you said like 90.
I was guessing if we pulled out the installation of the fixed sign, the
Yeah.
Chestnut Street sign, it would probably be about $85,000. So, so it would be, my guess, I'd have to look back, but, roughly approximately $85,000 for the 2 LED signs.
And that's the cost from National Grid too.
But yeah.
Approximately. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair. I mean, at least I don't think any of us are saying
Yeah.
on the dot. This is,
Within 5%, within 5%.
yeah. Okay, I was
just trying to also determine, like, was there more funding that you needed? So then that way we could hit that. But if you're within what we originally approved,
I was down for 80.
Yeah.
80?
80 for 3. Well, I mean, 80 period, but that was going
Yeah.
to cover the 3.
Yeah,
So it
we're-
seems like
we're
we need 5 more.
with 80. So,
Or 15 if the other one.
so
You
but
want to
because-
come back with, if you want to, the next time we meet is on the 17th, is that, if there's extra funding that you need, then we can vote on it then to expand, like,
Okay. Yes, what I'll do is I'll give you the itemized breakdown that reflects the 2 signs and then the 3rd sign without electrification or screening. And then you guys can tell me how you wish to proceed. I mean, we can do the smaller signs at the lower cost. They'd be great. But when our rules before this, we're going to do this once and it's going to last for 10 years. If we have the opportunity to do it right.
yeah.
To do it off, I should not do it right.
And when we looked at the demo, the size and resolution of that other, it was a huge, noticeable difference.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Chairman, rather than, keeping it going, I would move that we go with the 85 or give some leadway to 90. I'll say 90, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Very good. Now, one last question. Are the signs at the school, is the sign at the school, is that going to be facing, so when you're driving on 110, you're driving at it, or is it going to be parallel with the school front?
It's going to be perpendicular to the road and 2-sided.
Perfect.
Both of them are.
And that, sorry, stupid question. But this wouldn't be, we wouldn't have to move this for if there's a middle school project.
No, we're putting it the other driveway.
Fine. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, there's a school nearby that has a nice LED sign, but it runs parallel with the street.
Yeah.
So you have
You have to look side
a minute to, not even a minute, unless you're pulling into the school. So
Okay.
excellent.
Thank you.
And then on the downtown stormwater.
Downtown stormwater, very good.
I'm just bringing you back. We went over the program last time. I'm just bringing you back refined budget estimate. The budget actually in the intervening time since we last met, we looked more closely at each segment of the job to see if there were any costs, savings that could be obtained by reducing the scope of the project. The engineer got back to me with a long series of calculations. Says effectively, we need to capture all of this in order to get to the cost benefit ratio that we need. But the cost of the project came down from last year, primarily because last year, when inflation was high, FEMA required that you carry a higher percentage of contingency in the grant. So the estimate is now $11.4 million, roughly $11.37 million, and the local share would be about $2.85 million if we were to receive the grant.
2 point what?
85. So based on that information, I'd be asking the board, not that it's required for the application, but for the board to endorse our application to the FEMA BRIC program and to authorize the town administrator to sign a letter of commitment for indicating the town's willingness to contribute its share to the local share to the project.
Sorry. Sure. Just trying to find the. One more time, please.
That the board vote to authorize the town administrator to execute a letter indicating the town's commitment to its local share of the project fund. project cost.
So can we commit to that without town meeting approval? Like, with the, how would we be reneging? Okay.
Yeah, as long as the grant allows it, yeah.
You can,
Yeah.
you have to indicate, if the funds aren't secured, you have to indicate that the funds are available and what the process and timeline are for committing the funds.
Is this something we want to wait for a full
With the
board
wording,
approval?
say we'll seek funding. Yeah, if approved, we'll seek funding for the town share. Or you're committing it, because we can't commit money we don't have appropriated to Mr. Kerrigan's point, but so I don't know what the wording ever is
Yeah,
needed.
they're called local share commitment, but no, there's not the expectation that the funds are committed, that they're actually voted for and sitting in a box, in a shoebox with, brick project written on the shoebox. But you have to indicate that the town has, that the entity can raise the funding and what the timeline and process is for committing those funds. So in our instance, it would be bond or a vote of the town meeting or use of infrastructure stabilization funds and endorsement by town meeting. And that would be indicated in the letter to FEMA.
Is this a timely thing, or do we want to wait for a full board, or any thoughts?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I don't think I'm comfortable committing 2.85 million right now. I mean,
Well, we're indicating our, okay.
well, I mean, I guess the clarification, why do we have to approve it tonight without the town meeting approving it? That's all I'm saying. I'm not comfortable in saying, sitting in the seat saying, I'll commit 2.85 million. And then, so you're applying for it and you're basically telling them, if I understand you, that the town will commit to that and then you're going to town meeting after. So if I'm sitting here, I'm saying, yeah, I'm committing on the town. Is that what I'm understanding you saying?
No, we're saying the letter would indicate that the funding is subject to town meeting approval. And if town meeting doesn't approve, then the money's not available. We're not doing anything that we cannot legally do, which is actually commit the funds.
Yeah, so it doesn't bind us without that.
No, it doesn't bind us. It indicates our willingness, to undertake our responsibility for the project, subject to whatever the prevailing legislative action is to authorize the funds.
I mean, I would agree on having the other two members present too,
Yeah.
at least.
Is that a problem?
Yes, the grant will be due prior to your next meeting.
When did we know about the deadline? Did you just find this out or
No, I came to you at your last meeting about,
last week? Okay.
which was 3 or 4 weeks ago.
So if I make a motion, it's not gonna pass.
I have to be honest, I feel uncomfortable. I really do. So I guess I would say it would be a no.
Just the one question that I don't think I don't understand is, how much is the town's responsibility on that $2.85 million?
All of it.
All of it.
Yeah, it's an
$12 million project.
$11.4 million.
I just didn't get the other
Yeah.
million, that's why I was
Yeah.
wondering, so the town's 1.8 something.
It's 25% of the budget. Well, if there's an uneasiness, we won't apply this year. We'll do more legwork and apply next year.
I don't want to put you in a bind. I'll put it out there if you want to, but if I'm hearing no, which is fine. I just move on.
Yeah, there would have been no instances when between the time that the notice of this funding availability and the deadline where we would have had a town meeting. I mean, it's a 2-month period. I came into about halfway through. So our town meeting being in June, there wouldn't have been time. There would not have been the opportunity to do that. If it's something we want to apply for next year, then we can put that on the warrant for this year's annual town meeting.
So, you know, where we still need town approval, I think that gives us a little bit of leeway, as far as putting it before the taxpayers if this is something they want to move forward with. But I would not want to make that decision without having a full board present because,
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
I understand.
But quite frankly, given the hyper competitiveness of this program, every point that we can get going in is desperately needed. We're already at a points handicap due to some things that are within our control and some that are with beyond our control, having to do with the points awarded for certain technical accomplishments. The most galling of one, which is if your entity uses the most current building code, you get 10 points in your application. That's 2018 or 2021 UBC. Massachusetts is still using the 2015, so there's like 10 points. It will be fine if the board chooses to pursue this in a subsequent year. If the board is uncomfortable with the application as it stands, then we will take the steps in the next period to ensure that our application is as excellent as it can be. Quite frankly, give us time to revisit the design in some aspects because they also highly prioritize environmentally friendly solutions or innovative solutions. And our project is basically fixing a big pipe, and it's a highly urbanized area, but you'd hate to leave those points on the board just because you couldn't look more closely to say something like bioswales or tree boxes. Not that they do anything in a serious storm event, but if the board is uncomfortable, that's fine.
okay. All right. So let's table that for another
Okay.
discussion.
Sure, that is fine. And in part of that discussion, I may be coming to you in your next couple of meetings about another climate resilience, a state-funded climate resiliency grant program to see if there's things that we can do to kind of peck away at this rather than going in for the big $12 million ask in a hyper-competitive program.
That's fair.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much.
I get my weekend back. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. See you. The next item on the agenda, American Rescue Plan Act recommendations. I'd heard from the chair of the Board of Health, who was going to be unable to make it today. So we can put it on our next agenda, which would then move down to fire chief's request for equipment.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hey.
So basically, I did just before I got here, I got an update on, obviously, when we started this process, it was months ago, prices are going up. Nothing catastrophic by any means. So as far as a second set of turnout gear for everybody in the building, all 25 guys, I put in for 100,000, knowing full well that there was going to be a little bit of, growth. It's 99,617 as of today. So I'm spot on with that. The EMS jackets, I just actually double checked my last email to make sure that that hasn't changed. That has not changed. So basically just going back to the turnout gear. So the turnout gear is when you have a fire, we have like the best of the best in our station for cleaning equipment, washers, dryers, everything. We got everything. The downside to that is if you have a fire early in the shift and you're dirty, you got to stay in your dirty gear for the rest of the day. So all that stuff stays with you till you wash it. Then you got to come back and put it together. Now, if you have a second set of gear, you can turn around, put that dirty gear in the washer, the dryer, the extractor, all done, which like I said, we got the best of the best. We're blessed with that. And then these guys can just take their second set of gear up, put it on. The other side to that is turnout gear on your daily use is 5 years. From 5 years to 10 years, it can be used as your second set of gear. After 10 years, it can no longer be repaired or in use. So it's the life expectancy's changed dramatically. So this second set of gear is absolutely huge. The EMS coats, basically similar, but if you're on a call and somebody vomits on you, you get blood on you, you get this, same thing. We got the equipment to wash the gear, but now you don't have a coat to go on a medical. So you end up borrowing somebody else's jacket. So that's kind of the reasoning behind that, put in for a second. So if your jacket gets dirty, in the washer, take out your second jacket. That's it. That's $12,500. That's for everybody to have a second set of EMS gear. And then lastly is the paramedic fly car with the equipment. Knowing after the meeting that we gave the SEMA the money, and then working with Angela and worked with Corey Poole going over, the pickup truck, when I gave the initial price, went up by $10,000. We have enough money in the SEMA. We made sure we had enough, so we're good with that. But knowing that in my brain, just that pickup went up 10, and knowing that when Angela and I talked about the 3 other vehicles they got for the town, the prices of those, and the EMS gear changing, I put in for that, once we go to paramedic-based medicine and decide we're going to order this equipment at $115,000. I think that's going to come in low. Not by a lot, I thought I originally had it in for 125. It's 115 because I have all the stuff from Chief Hurlbert, and that's starting to get old. I'm thinking probably that number's going to be more realistically at 125 or 130,000 now. EMS gear is changing, costs are changing, and obviously vehicle prices are still high. So I think that would really be the only one that I would recommend, and that's the last one, of course. Because once we get the paramedic bugs all worked out, that's the one we're going to go towards. But that would be the last thing we'd be doing anyway. And that's basically because the other things that were on my list, facilities ended up taking. Brian and I talked about that, about the replacement windows in the station because they're original, and the rooftop unit for the office, which 2 of them have been replaced, 1 has not. I spoke to Brian the other day. He's in the process of getting prices for that. So Brian's handling that. And then the premium pay is already taken care of.
Question?
Are we going to buy a car before the town meeting approves paramedic? No. Okay.
Absolutely not.
So we're going to hold off on that part?
No, that's why I said that's the last one.
Okay.
That's the last one, because once the matrix study comes out.
Yep.
Once we go through, getting a union contract.
Yep.
With paramedic pay in it, and then we start the process. Then at that point, we'll look at the time frame it's going to take, to get us running the paramedic, and the time frame it's going to take to actually order the vehicle.
Gotcha.
Because the vehicle will be longer. The medicines, the monitors and all that, that's no length of time.
Okay. Thank you.
So tonight, if the board chose, we could look at approving or voting on the second set of turnout gear and the EMS jackets at a total of $112,500. And then the fly car would be at a later time.
I just know that that's going to shift just because I see the price of shipping constantly. It's kind of crazy right now. Can't keep up with it.
What's the turnaround time on the turnout gear and the jackets? Is there?
Well, it was over a year, but it's getting in the 9-month range now, maybe. Roughly. It's crazy. Fire apparatus right now is between 2 and 3 years. The forestry truck, when I got the authorization through the town meeting, I ordered it within 5 days, and it's over a year out. Just the forestry truck, a year out. Fire apparatus is 2 to 3. Some are bigger than that. They're over 4 years. So, and the reason that I kind of allude to that is one of the reasons I kind of allude to that things. Like, as we look at our ambulances, because our ambulances are in constant rotation with the state, we know that our ambulance right now is at this age, but it's gonna need to be replaced here. But you're gonna need to order an ambulance 2 years before you need it. Now, I've never been in that position, but you're not saying you're gonna fund it, you're just saying you order. You don't own it until you get approval from the town. And if you don't, they just sell it. But you gotta get in the waiting list, because at some point I'm gonna be asking for an ambulance. Although not that long ago I got one, but it's gonna take 2 years for it to arrive. So that'll be, budget discussion, But just a heads up, it's some of the stuff, the wait times are long and lengthy.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we go ahead with approving the firefighters' second set of gear and the jackets.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, quick question. We've got 360 here on this highlighted line item. Does that fall under here with the buildings, like with?
That included some things that have now been in, so we didn't reduce that.
But we're budgeting. Okay, great. Thanks. That's all I have.
Any other questions? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I got one more. And I just want to make this very, very extremely clear. This is my opinion only, my personal opinion. So going back to the hazard pay, I'm happy with the hazard pay. I'm not complaining with hazard pay. What I understand the board's position, and understanding and agreeing are two different things. Just again, crystal clear. This is just me, myself looking at it, saying, Angela and I have to do the process of prorating in that. I voiced my opinion. I'm against that. Not only the headache that we've got to go through, I'm okay with that. Angela's great to work with. I love working with her. But the possibility, I'm not saying it's going to happen, I'm not saying so, but the possibility of extension in the station over a minute amount of money. So we had firefighters that were out in IOD, and okay, they're not going to get any money. That being said, some of those firefighters were chomping at the bit to come back to work, but they couldn't. Some of those same firefighters begged me, literally begged me, can I at least come into the town hall and administer vaccines? I said to them, I can't pay you overtime. You're on IOD. I don't care. I'm going stir crazy. I need to do something. These guys came in here, administered vaccines. They went to the residents when we ran 4-man teams for all the vaccines. So I'm just saying to myself that the possibility of hardship, distension, morale, I question myself, is it worth it? So I just asked the board just to think about that. That's it, nothing more. Again, that's not the union talking to me, that's my personal opinion. That's all. I just don't want to see, we got things going good down there. I don't want to see hardships and morale issues over a few $1,000s. That's all I'm saying. And I greatly appreciate the gear, the EMS jackets, the paramedic stuff, that's down the road, but we're okay with that. We know that. We're in the process. We're heading in the right direction.
I'll just, without the rest of the board here,
Yeah.
to have that.
No, absolutely.
I know the based upon the discussions we had publicly,
Yep.
The intent of the pay was for employees subjected to hazard.
Yep.
And, if someone was not at work at that time, I would, in my opinion, I would think that would create dissension in the other direction, right? Where if someone was there working their 60, 70 hours a week,
Yep.
and then they're getting the same amount, that's my opinion. But, the objective was to try to provide pay to employees who were faced with hazardous conditions. And if employees, I thought the idea of prorating it
Yep.
per month to try to simplify it a little bit, whereas instead of
Yep.
any other denomination, and it's not, we would love to do everything we possibly could for everybody. But unfortunately, that's kind of a hard.
Well, like I
It's a
said,
hard
I
line.
understand it. I just don't agree with it. And
Understood.
It's just, that's how I feel. I just feel that if it's given blanket across the board, then no group, either side can complain. It's done. Walk away. You can't complain. You didn't work, you did work, zip it. Be happy you got it. That's my theory. It just takes that, everything from this side to that side out of the mix, especially when it's 4 or 5. And I'm guessing I got to sit down and look. I have the records. Angela and I have already spoken because I was on vacation. So spoke to Angela after the new year. We'll get together. But I just want to give my opinion. And like I said, that's just my personal opinion. That's all.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to speak to that one.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I appreciate where you're coming from, but, to me, it would just open a Pandora's box and there would be no way to close it. Because we had many discussions about other departments, and I know that there was a lot of people who felt really as though they were shortchanged, that they should have gotten something. So, my opinion is I think the people who got it deserved it. And I think the board was very generous in what the compensation was. And I just think that to go back and revisit even your request is, I think we'd be awfully hard pressed to justify, because I know we would be hearing from a lot of other town employees. And that's just my, I know you have your opinion, and that's just.
And I explained to the board very clear that there's a very large, extremely large variant. We had firefighters, our firefighters, that when this pandemic was acknowledged, we went across the street to Fisher Auto and bought respirators. We went to Auberchon and bought Tyvek suits because we had no idea what we were up against. Everybody, the state is starting to shut down. Our firefighters have no idea what they're walking into. Then as this thing explodes, it escalates. I'm meeting with Dr. Meyer and closing the schools, and I'm still thinking this is nothing. I told Dr. Meyer right out, Dr. Meyer, we'll be closed for 2 weeks. A year later, I still, so what I'm trying to say is our firefighters, not mine, our firefighters went into residents that had 5, 6, 7, 8 people in that residence in COVID. My guys at the beginning had Tyvek suits on with duct tape on their boots. Our ambulance had the windows duct taped to keep one person free. Our firefighters, not all, but the majority of them got COVID, brought COVID home, gave their family COVID, came back to work, got COVID a second time. That's all I'm trying to say. I mean, I'm okay with the dollar amount. I wanted a higher amount, but listen, I'm not complaining about that. I'm just saying the amount of distension it's causing. And believe me, what Mary Rose said, I understand it. Understanding and agreeing are just 2 different things, and that's all. It's just our firefighters, they have the highest risk of any group in this town. Hands down, hands down.
I agree, and that was the intent of the hazard pay. Those people that were wearing the duct tape.
Yeah,
So I think if somebody was either not employed by the town of Clinton for that entire duration, then I don't think that qualifies as hazard pay for the town to account for. If the people that were working, that was, Captain Chamberlain had submitted something where it was based upon how many hours, like there was many different formulas, and as Select Person Dicko mentioned, it was, we had to do what we thought was in the best interest, and it was not a popular decision.
Yep.
We had heard from departments that were receiving hazard pay that there was still some uneasiness between different amounts, and while it might not have been common throughout the state, we're also in the minority in terms of municipalities that did issue hazard pay. Yep. So, we did with the best we could with the information we had and our objective judgment. And I appreciate you sharing your opinion, and
That's all.
That's where that lies.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, the next item on the agenda, Town Administrator Report. Whenever you're ready.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was jumping ahead, going forward. Sorry. Sorry. Just a couple quick things,
Sure.
Mr. Chair. Just wanted to highlight to the board and publicly what was in the packet and the correspondence, that the Governor Healy had sent a letter announcing that Clinton will get $161,650 and funding from the Fair Share Amendment to be used for infrastructure improvements. It'll be distributed through the Mass DOT Chapter 90 program. So it'll just be added to our award, and it'll be used for annual improvements that come before the board. So just wanted to note that. Also, I know the board has been asking about the employee survey. The HR was expecting to get a draft of that today. I wasn't able to ask if it actually came in, but we'll review that internally and have it for the next meeting when available. So
Okay.
I think those are just kind of a couple of quick updates coming out of the holidays. So.
Very good.
Mr. Chair,
Sure.
while we have the town administrator, I was curious, do we have someone who's acting as DPW superintendent until we pick our next one?
Yeah,
I mean,
for,
Mr.
yeah,
McGowan's
for
done, right?
DPW, Mr. McGowan has stayed on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's just working a couple hours a week
Great.
just to keep the management going for the department.
Thanks.
And he will be available to transition with the new person to kind of orientate them for a couple weeks for whatever they need. So he does have availability for the next couple weeks or
Thank
couple months.
Excellent. Any other
No,
questions?
sorry, that's it.
No problem. Under administrative business, we have 2 requests for water sewer abatements. The first is for 27 High Street. Was there any background information you wanted to provide on that, or was it just whatever was in the package?
Yeah, I think what I
Okay.
have in the packet is I think all that I had. I know the DPW did submit for both of these kind of a calculation as to what they would anticipate being the abatement. So this is, I think, the owner of this property, I think, had acknowledged an ongoing issue that they think they have resolved, and was just asking for some relief from the high water bill from a leak that they had repaired.
Okay, so that would be,
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve both of the amounts for the abatements that have been requested by the 2 individuals, 27 High and 3 Craig Street Drive.
very good. So,
Second.
very good. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Old and new business. Empire Equipment Class 2 license ownership change.
Sure. Mr. Chair, just a little background on this. The Empire Equipment was owned and operated for many, many years by Frank POTUS. And he passed away. And part of his heirs have indicated that as part of his will is that he was turning the business over to his 2 sons. So we just wanted to bring this before the licensing authority to see if the board was okay with that. We still need to get the legal documents from them to make that official, but if the board was okay with that company, if by maintaining the license in the name of Empire Equipment, that there would be, the sons would be running it, and obviously there'd be new owners. So if that's something that,
Do we have to have a hearing for that?
I think if it's just changing corporations, it's just a notice and approval by the board. If they're applying for as a whole new entity, then they would have to come before a hearing when I spoke with town solicitors. So I don't know if the board, it's town solicitors, and their recommendation, if the board was okay with the ownership change, that the board could approve it subject to review of the documentation by town council. And if it isn't just a legal transfer of the corporation, then they would have to apply for a license separately.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The next item on the agenda, the municipal on-call take-home request. The Board of Health was going to be here tonight, so we can table this to the next discussion, but I think in the meantime, we talked about coming up or establishing criteria that was, that we could use to make a determination on which departments or employees would be considered on call and take the vehicle home versus versus not.
Yeah, there were, in the policy, I think I did put that in the packet, that there were some departments that were listed as allowed to take home, the ones that currently do, police, fire, public works. But then there was a provision for on-call as determined by the select board. So if there are other departments that are going to be taking vehicles home, all it says is on-call as determined by the board. So if the board, I guess it's up to the board to determine what those parameters would be, when you get the request.
So I think this, do we wait for the rest of the board to be here to carry on the discussion, or?
Yeah, so, I mean, do we get to determine which departments are on call? Like, I mean, obviously not union departments, but if we wanted a department under our purview to be on call, we could just make that decision.
So I think it's from the perspective of if a department feels that they're on call and they're requesting that a vehicle be available for them versus us saying your department's on call, you need to take a vehicle home. I think those are two different perspectives. So I think they need to establish that what their on call criteria really is, right? Like, when we had talked about, Mr. Ward and I had talked about just different departments and what capacity are they on call.
Right.
And I think it's, so based upon the policy, it would be up to the select board essentially to determine what is, I guess what's our definition of on call versus the.
But I think we also have to, Mr. Chairman, I think look at the situation of the parking issue, because the town of Clinton has no parking issue. I mean, we have the issue of there's no place to park these vehicles. I mean, I know that, Council on Aging does because they have a parking
I
lot.
see V1's parked over here.
But, I mean, it's very limited parking. And, I'm sorry?
No, so go ahead. So, okay. But at this point, it's just,
I mean, I don't have any problem if it's the Board of Health we're talking about. I mean, I know that they make all kinds of visits to all kinds of situations. Until, a formal solution can come into place, I don't have any problem under if us want to move just tonight on a temporary basis, they'd be allowed to have the vehicle parked at someone's, well, there's only two anyways, right?
I mean,
In that department, so.
I'll be honest, I would like to see some information based upon what quantifies being on call. I know that we talked about, we talked to the building inspector. The building inspector was able to document how many times they were called in off hours. The challenge I have with the Board of Health, which is part of a larger conversation, the department is not open normal business hours. It's not open 8 to 4. We have 2 employees that we're paying that are staffed for 23 hours each, which will be 46 hours. The previous employee of the Board of Health worked full-time and was there 8 to 4. So we have more employees working more hours, but the department's not open a full day based upon what I see. So I think to have, if we're talking about being on call because we're receiving 2 or 3 phone calls a year, I don't think that the taxpayers need to be on the hook for someone getting to and from work in a town vehicle. I know there are tax implications, which is going to be another part of this, where employees who do take the vehicles home, that's considered an incentive, financial incentive. So from the town side, that needs to be enforced and tracked. So,
Well, I mean, part of this policy anyways is, I think of any community, when you take that car home, it's not for your personal use.
Right. Yeah, all those provisions are in the policy
Yeah, I
and
mean-
the IRS impact is and everything too.
I mean, the department initially had upwards, it was just about $1,000 over 3 years of reimbursements. So I've been pretty consistent with wanting to see data to help make objective decisions and
Yeah, but I think, Mr. Chairman, in all honesty, when they were before us, they did acknowledge that they didn't put in for many of the times that they were doing it. So, I mean,
Absolutely.
I don't think that was really, a true evaluation just because of, they had the 1,000 hours. Obviously, they had, on behalf of the town, put more hours in that they didn't charge the town for.
I completely.
So, I mean, I don't think that's a bad thing, but.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. I would expect that an employee, if they're using their personal vehicle for town business, that they should put in for the compensation because that's what it's meant for. I don't think anybody should have to pay out of their own pocket to do town business. So if there's an issue with like the process, if it's too convoluted or if it's not worth it, then I think that's something we could look at on our side because, I'm appreciative of people using their personal vehicle to do town business, but I would expect that they get compensated as they should. And I'm not saying that all I'm just bringing to the table is that like the information I just felt was inconclusive because of, to your point, we didn't really have a true idea of how many miles a department is traveling because of the.
Well, again, I guess I would go back to the other issue. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think it would make one difference to either of those people who work for Board of Health. Just find them a place to park the vehicle. I mean, that's another thing. Like I said, I mean, we're very short on parking. I think that's a big issue that the town really has to look at. So, I mean, that's all I'm saying. I don't think they care if just where you want us to park it.
I know the Council on Aging, that's where the Veterans Agent, I think on the weekends has been moving it up there because when the Council on Aging is open and they need the parking, those vehicles will be out of the parking lot.
Right.
And, but I agree. I think that was something that Mr. Ward and I had discussed at one point to identify here are the locations that they can be stored. But the process, we understand the process is going to be, it needs to be malleable. So that way we can there's things that have come up that I didn't really think of. And I think the more that we can get feedback from the employees, then I think it can help shape this so we can reach the objective that kind of set out for. But I think ultimately it's just managing the town assets that the taxpayers pay for and having a uniform policy. But I'm only one vote.
Yeah, I mean, I supported the car. I think talking about parking and talking about who's on call and who needs it at home are two different things with both important. I would love to hear, again, I think the argument they made when they were here was why they need the vehicle, which I appreciate, going out and to people who might not be used to inspections, but I don't recall an argument for 24-hour access. So I'd love to, I'm not saying I don't support it, but I would love to hear their argument for that if we can wait for them to be here.
That's fair. And I think it would give the Board of Health an opportunity to explain and so I can understand. I'm not opposed to any department taking vehicles home when they're on call. It's a very necessary service when people are called in the middle of the night to go out. And the last thing I would like to see is someone be inconvenienced because they have to make an extra stop. But I think just to try to establish some baseline on the decision practice is all. But I would, I think until we can invite them back for the 17th, and then hopefully we'll have a full board at that time. We can engage in the discussion.
Right.
All right. The next item, recycle center rules and regulations.
And Mr. Chair, just bring this forward to the board to see if the board would be open to developing some operating regulations for the recycle center. I know in speaking with Mr. Cobb on a couple of different occasions that Clinton has kind of become like a regional center because they're open so much. There's so many hours that they're available. And with that, you know, just having a part-time person trying to manage it, it's becoming overwhelming for him, as well as storage of goods that like mattresses. You know, it's one of the cheapest places in the area to bring a mattress. So they're getting truckloads. Sometimes on a Saturday, they'll have a pickup truckload of mattresses coming in from other towns because it's so less expensive here. So I know Mr. Cobb was just hoping to start a conversation to maybe developing some rules, whether, you know, we go to, you know, limitations on what people can bring in per trip, or whether we just limit to only town residents, as a lot of communities do. So just kind of wanted to see if the board was open to either having staff bring some recommendations, or I know we, you know, did have a kind of a solid waste recycling committee in the past. If anyone wanted to, you know, be involved in developing some of those, or if would like staff to bring some ideas. I know in talking to Mr. Cobb, I do have a page of notes that I took from my meeting with him, so we can certainly start there with some of his ideas or some of the challenges that he's been facing, and bring it to the board and kind of see how you want to proceed.
Mr. Chair, I'm on that subcommittee, so yeah, I'm happy to talk to Michael or his staff about coming up with something. Do we have anything right now? When's the last time we updated our the sticker prices?
Yeah, I think all we have is just the pricing sheet. We
Yeah.
really don't have any rules or regulations. It's really just, you know, as long as you come in and pay the
Right.
cost, and that's been several years. It hasn't been
Okay.
changed in years since before COVID. I think it's been the same.
Okay.
And our price was low because we did have a grant from DEP for the mattresses. That grant has expired, and the costs are keeping even kind of with the cost to get rid of it. But with just running at that bare margin, it's way lower than what other communities are doing. So now we're bringing in much more volume, which is causing additional trips. So now the transportation costs are now putting it, kind of upending it and making it a cost to us. It's now costing us money, where before we were kind of breaking even. And I think that was the idea. We didn't want to make it prohibitive because we want people to get rid of this stuff. But there's a margin where the town feels that if it's whatever, 50,000 or whatever we think it would be, that we could kick in to help. But where it's getting to the point where we're having cost overruns every year, we're getting transfers every year to try to keep up with the material. So I think it just would be a good time to take a look at it and bring some ideas back to the board.
Yeah, Mr. Ward and I have spoke a few times about the recycling center, and I have an interest being a part of those conversations. So I think, you know, let's get together and come up with a plan.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Memorial Day parade discussion, so we're gonna table that. That was, Mr. DeVault wanted to discuss that. And then you already touched upon the employee customer service survey, so we can move past that.
Can I touch on one?
Sure, absolutely.
I brought it up before, and I think it's two different things. The parking at Gene's Auto. I'm not talking about that tonight, but I have noticed as I'm back on the roads that the parking on the sidewalk between 329, which we own, and 325, which I think is a barber shop, it's multiple times a week on the sidewalk, either wheels up, or I actually saw someone once pulled up in the driveway completely crossing the sidewalk. It's almost daily at this point, and I'm not keeping a log, but just anecdotally. For that end of the street that we work so hard to reclaim from the dark days, and seeing as that's, you know, one of the two main entry points into downtown, it's just a terrible look, and it's illegal. So I don't know if we can, I've mentioned it to people that I know on the police force informally, but, I think, I don't know if this board can stress that, there's no other place in downtown that, I know that parking on sidewalks is something I could bang my head against a wall forever, but downtown, like that's the only place where people are just parking on the sidewalk at will. And I just don't think it should be happening.
Yes, Sean, I have to agree with you because I'm around town a lot.
It's awful.
And it's very congested down there.
Right.
And you're right. Always on the sidewalks. It's
just not what
yeah,
we're looking
really,
for,
no,
and it's illegal.
No, I agree with you.
So if there's anything I could do, I mean, it's an easy spot. And I know people think we need some parking relief down there, but somehow 95% of the rest of downtown figures a way to make it work. And this little corner can't.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. I think if I know Mr. Duffy was trying to work with the parties to come up with, acceptable solution, but I think we should maybe move to the next step to enforcement now and maybe have the police department get involved.
and I'm fine. The parking on the lot isn't even what I'm talking about
Right.
right now. On the sidewalk, I can't let that happen. I mean, listen, if they want to take advantage of us, the intermediate period before we sell that or redevelop it, then, I'm willing to let that go right now. I can't have them on the sidewalk. That's just no go for me.
You're going to open the door for people parking on that property.
I'd rather that didn't happen at all, but
Well, like where they can fit, right? Because sometimes you go down, there's one car. Sometimes there's three.
if it was up to me, it'd be no parking there at all. So, but I can't have them on the
Like the barriers, would not be appealing, but we talked
Right.
about trying to put some sort of streetscape to discourage people from parking in there. And
Yeah.
furthermore, there's a municipal parking lot, maybe 1,000 feet
Right down
down
the
the
street.
street, that if they're if people are working, if it's the employees who are parking there,
Right.
there's an area they can go to.
Yeah, there's a medium range thing and a short range thing here. I would love to see, as we talked about, the any kind of streetscape or just to kind of wean them off of it because it's not theirs and it's not going to be theirs pretty soon for sure. But again, if you have wheels on the sidewalk, you need a ticket or just someone telling you got to move. Like, if you want to try and sneak into a spot that's not yours, I'll let the police figure that out. If you're on the sidewalk, that's not yours. That's not where cars go. That's where people go.
Absolutely.
But I do think because, like I said, I'm up and down
Yep.
High Street all the time. There's three cars can fit on this side. That's always,
Full.
I'd say 90% of the day.
Full right now.
So what happens is I think that does what creates that issue that they say the car's parked there. So they think, well, they're parking there, so I'll just
Right.
park right here on the sidewalk. So I think it adds to the issue, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I agree.
So do we have to codify something? I know it's old business. I'm happy to put it on the next agenda. If there's any way we could again, I don't want to speak for the board, but if anyone is on patrol and sees someone parked on the sidewalk, whether there or anywhere downtown, I would appreciate some relief.
Absolutely. I'll speak with the police chief and then give a report to the board at the next meeting.
Okay.
And I know Mr. Duffy is putting together the RFP
Yeah.
for that property. Town council's reviewing it, so I think he was then, once he get town council sign off, he was going to come to the board and get the okay to launch it and put it out there and
Right.
start getting proposals. So that is behind the scenes, is in the work. So you're right, they're not going to be able to go there for long, so they could start now by pulling it back.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Any other old or new business?
None from me.
There being none, no committee reports.
I did.
Oh,
I
I'm sorry.
saw Mr. Varakis informally over the holiday break, and we're going to be pulling that cable committee update in the next few weeks. So I just want to let you know that.
Excellent. Community announcements. Library news. The town of Clinton is applying for a library construction grant, and we want you to help make it happen. What is your vision for the town and the library? What legacy do you want to leave with Clinton? Register now for these library focus groups. Your opinion matters. Groups will be held on Saturday, January 13th at 10 a.m. and Wednesday, January 24th at 6 p.m. Registration and more information on the town website can be found at www.clintonma.gov. Facilities news. The town will be picking up Christmas trees, real trees, not artificial, curbside between now and January 19th, 2024. Trees are not picked up with your regular trash collection. Please remove all ornaments, tinsel, and lights. Please do not put your tree in a plastic bag. Clerk's office, new. The 2024 annual census forms have been mailed. State law requires that a census form is filled out and sent back every year for every household in Clinton. The census forms were sent in December of 2023 and should be sent back within 10 days to the town clerk's office, even if no changes are necessary. If you have any questions, please contact the town clerk's office. Our next meeting is.
Can we just throw one in? Sorry. I think there's forecasts are calling for a snow event this weekend. So just a reminder, we did away with the season-long parking ban in favor of a snow event to snow event. I know it's a little easier over the weekends, but look for the blue lights at major intersections. If that's flashing, then the parking ban is on. Try and get your cars off the road so our DPW people can do their job safely.
Very good. The next meeting will be on January 17th. I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Have a great night.